Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered why some women go through heartbreaks, setbacks, or moments of profound loss? Why does it seem like God allows us to be broken before He uses us in mighty ways? The answer lies in understanding a divine principle. God breaks the woman He's about to use. When you look at your life and everything you've been through, you might wonder why some seasons feel so heavy, so overwhelming, so filled with pain and disappointment. It's easy to ask, why me? Why now? But what if I told you that within every broken moment, within every tear shed in the quiet of the night, there is a divine purpose, that God, in His infinite wisdom, uses those very moments to prepare you for something greater than you can imagine. That the breaking you experience isn't a sign of defeat, but a sign of divine preparation. Let me tell you, there's a reason why God allows us to go through seasons of breaking. It's because He's shaping us, molding us, and refining us into the women He knows we are capable of becoming. The process of breaking is not punishment. It's His way of pruning what is unnecessary so that what remains is pure, strong, and resilient. Think about a diamond before it shines in all its glory. It must go through immense pressure, be subjected to the harshest conditions. That pressure doesn't destroy the diamond. It transforms it into a thing of beauty. The same is true for us. Sometimes we need to go through pressure, through pain, to uncover the brilliance within. In those moments of brokenness, it's crucial to understand that God is not abandoning us. No, He's very present. He's working behind the scenes, orchestrating a divine transformation that only He can bring about. When you feel the weight of disappointment, the sting of setbacks, or the ache of loss, it's easy to believe that you've been forsaken. But I want to remind you, those moments are fertile ground for the divine to move. They are the soil where strength is cultivated, endurance is built, and faith is stretched. It's in those quiet, lonely places that God whispers His promises to our hearts and refines our character. The truth is, God knows what's inside us more than we do. He recognizes the potential He placed within each of us, potential that's often hidden beneath layers of doubt, fear, and even pride. When He sees that potential, He doesn't want us to stay comfortable or complacent. Instead, He lovingly allows circumstances that will push us beyond our limits, forcing us to rely on Him more fully. It's in the breaking that we learn to surrender. We learn that our strength is not in our own ability, but in our dependence on the One who holds the universe in His hands. Many women have been standing at the crossroads of brokenness, feeling like they're at the end of their ropes, questioning whether they can survive what they're going through. But I want you to know, survival is not the goal. Thriving in the midst of pain, walking in purpose despite the setbacks, that's the goal. And that is only possible when we understand that every broken piece is a part of a divine puzzle. God is fitting those pieces together, even when we can't see the full picture. He's working in the dark so that when the light comes, what emerges is a woman who is unshakable and unbreakable. When you're in the midst of your breaking, don't rush the process. Don't try to escape it or pretend it's not happening. Lean into it. Trust that the One who started a good work in you will complete it. Sometimes the breaking feels like losing control, and that's exactly the point. Because in surrendering our control, we make room for His power to work through us. We learn that true strength isn't found in trying to control every situation, but in trusting the One who controls everything. That's where true resilience is born, when we surrender our fears and place our faith in a God who knows exactly what He's doing. The process of breaking is also a process of learning humility. When life's storms come, they remind us that we are not invincible, that our strength comes from above, not from within. It's humbling to realize that we don't have all the answers, that we can't fix everything on our own, and that sometimes we need divine intervention. That humility is a foundation for a woman of purpose. It's what keeps us grounded in truth and open to divine guidance. It's what keeps us teachable and receptive to the lessons that come through pain. Because every lesson learned in brokenness is a lesson that prepares us for the next level of purpose. The journey of becoming who we're meant to be is not a straight line. It's a winding road filled with detours, setbacks, and breakthroughs. The key is understanding that each moment, whether good or bad, is sacred. Each moment of brokenness is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to shed layers of doubt, fear, and false identity that no longer serve us. Sometimes, God has to break us free from what's holding us back so that we can step into the fullness of who He created us to be. So when the storms of life threaten to drown you, Remember that they are also pushing you into your purpose. When you feel the weight of your circumstances, remind yourself that you are being shaped into a vessel that can carry divine power and influence. The process is painful, yes, but it's purposeful. It's necessary. Because only through the breaking can we become the women who rise up and stand tall in our calling, unshaken by the winds of adversity. And as we embrace this process, we discover that the break isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter. It's a divine reset, a moment where God rewires our hearts and refines our spirits. It's where faith is tested and fortified, and where resilience is born. Because what's on the other side of breaking is a woman who knows her worth, her calling, and her divine potential. And that woman, when fully restored and renewed, becomes unstoppable. The divine plan is always bigger than what we see in the moment. We are being prepared for destinies beyond our imagination. The breaking is painful, but it's also purposeful. It's a sign that God sees something extraordinary in us, something worth fighting for, worth enduring for. It's a sign that we are destined for greatness, and nothing can stop what God has planned for his daughters who refuse to give up, even when they feel broken. The journey of transformation begins with understanding that the breaking is a necessary part of becoming. That in every tear, every loss, every moment of despair, there's a seed of divine purpose being planted. And when that seed begins to grow, it will produce a harvest of strength, grace, and resilience that no storm can wipe out. Because in the divine process, the broken pieces come together to form a masterpiece, something beautiful, something powerful, something that reflects the glory of the Creator himself. Sometimes when life hits hard and circumstances seem relentless, we find ourselves asking questions that cut deep into our spirits. We wonder why pride has to be challenged, why our self-reliance feels like it's crumbling, and why we are faced with so many moments of vulnerability. It's in those very moments that divine truth begins to unfold if we're willing to listen. God's process of breaking is not just about tearing us down. It's about stripping away everything that stands in the way of his purpose for us. It's about removing the false layers we've built around ourselves, those walls of pride, independence, and self-sufficiency that seem to protect us, but actually keep us from the fullness of his plan. When we hold tightly to our pride, we inadvertently hold back the flow of divine power that God intends to release through us. Pride can be the biggest obstacle to our growth because it whispers lies that we don't need help, that we can do everything on our own, and that we're stronger than we really are. But God, in his incredible love, knows that true strength doesn't come from our ability to do everything ourselves. It comes from recognizing our weakness and surrendering to his strength. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is admitting, I can't do this alone. That act of surrender is what opens the door for divine intervention and transformation. Pride often masks itself as confidence, but underneath, it's rooted in fear of vulnerability, rejection, or failure. When we cling to pride, we're trying to control everything around us because we believe that if we relinquish control, everything will fall apart. But control is an illusion. The more we try to hold everything together, the more fragile everything becomes. God's divine process involves a gentle but firm surrender. He wants us to loosen our grip on self-reliance and recognize that true power flows when we acknowledge our dependence on him. That's where humility begins, a posture of openness, teachability, and trust. In the process of divine breaking, humility becomes the foundation of transformation. It's not about feeling worthless or defeated. It's about understanding that we are human, limited, and in need of divine grace. When we embrace humility, we position ourselves to receive what God has for us, because humility opens our hearts to divine wisdom and direction. It allows us to see ourselves clearly, to accept our flaws without shame, and to recognize that our strength ultimately comes from the one who sustains us. Humility isn't weakness. It's the gateway to true strength. It's what allows us to rise above our circumstances because we are anchored in something greater than ourselves. This process of releasing pride also involves letting go of the false narratives we tell ourselves about who we are and what we are capable of. Sometimes we define ourselves by our past failures, our mistakes, or the labels others have placed on us. We carry those burdens as if they are our identity. But divine breaking is about shedding those layers of false identity and stepping into the truth of who we are in Christ. It's about realizing that our worth isn't determined by what we've done or what others say about us, but by what God says about us. When we allow pride to be broken, we begin to see ourselves through his eyes, a woman of purpose, strength, and divine potential. The journey of humility and releasing pride is a process of continual surrender. It's not a one-time event, but a daily choice. Every day, we are faced with the opportunity to choose humility over arrogance, dependence over independence, trust over doubt. When we wake up each morning with a heart willing to surrender, we open ourselves to divine breakthroughs that change everything. We start to realize that the strength we need isn't something we conjure up on our own. It's a gift from above, poured into us as we humble ourselves before God. As women, we are called to be leaders, trailblazers, and change makers. But leadership begins with humility. Leadership rooted in pride is fragile and easily shaken. Leadership grounded in humility is resilient because it's built on a divine foundation. When we let go of pride and self-reliance, we become vessels through which divine power flows freely. We become women who are not afraid to admit our weaknesses because we know that in our weakness, His strength is made perfect. We learn to depend on the one who never fails, who never leaves, and who always provides. The process of divine breaking is also about releasing the need for validation from others. Pride often manifests as a desire to be seen, appreciated, or validated by the world. But true validation comes from heaven. When we stop seeking approval from people and start seeking approval from God, we step into a new level of freedom. That freedom gives us the courage to be authentic, to walk in our purpose unashamed, and to embrace the journey with all its ups and downs. It's in that place of humility and divine validation that we find our true identity and strength. We must remember that humility isn't about diminishing ourselves or playing small. It's about recognizing that our greatness is rooted in God's greatness. It's about understanding that our real power is found in dependence on Him, trusting His plan, His timing, and His purpose for our lives. When pride is broken, what remains is a woman who is teachable, receptive, and open to divine instruction. That's when transformation happens, when we stop fighting what God is doing and start aligning ourselves with His divine will. In that alignment, we discover that the process of divine breaking is not about losing ourselves. It's about becoming who we were always meant to be, women of humility, strength, and unwavering faith. We realize that the greatest power we possess is the power to surrender. That surrender unlocks the door to divine strength and grace. It's a continual journey of shedding layers of false confidence and false pride until what's left is a pure vessel, ready to carry divine glory. When we embrace humility and let go of pride, we position ourselves to receive everything God has prepared for us, knowing that our strength is rooted in Him and that our purpose is fulfilled through His divine power flowing through us. There comes a time in the journey of purpose when you realize that your past isn't just a collection of mistakes or failures, but it's part of a larger divine story being written in your life. Every scar, every setback, every moment of regret, they are not the final chapters. They are the prelude to a comeback that only God can orchestrate. Sometimes we look at our history and see only the pain, the disappointment, and the missed opportunities. But what if I told you that your history is actually a part of your divine preparation? That everything you've been through is setting you up for a greater victory. That your setbacks are merely setups for God's next move in your life. The truth is, what you've endured was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. It was meant to teach you lessons about faith, resilience, and trust in the divine timetable. When we face failures, it's easy to feel like we've fallen beyond repair, like we've blown it for good. But failure is not the enemy. It's a teacher. It's a tool that God uses to redirect us, to redirect our focus, and to teach us humility and dependence on Him. Failure in its proper place is fertile ground for growth. It's where we learn that our worth isn't measured by our victories alone, but by our ability to stand back up after we fall. Many women carry the weight of past failures as if they are chains, binding us to a version of ourselves that no longer exists. But divine purpose calls us to see beyond our past. It calls us to see ourselves through the lens of divine possibility, not personal limitation. When we understand that failure is a necessary part of the process, we stop running from it and start embracing it as a stepping stone. Every mistake, every missed chance is a lesson learned, a moment of humility, and a sign that we are still in the process of becoming. It's in those moments of failure that our character is tested and strengthened. It's where perseverance is built and faith is stretched. We must also understand that divine purpose often involves a process of redirection. God is the master strategist, and sometimes His greatest blessings come through detours. When life doesn't go according to our plan, it's not because God has abandoned us. It's because He's repositioning us for what's better. That rejection, that closed door, that disappointment. Those aren't signs of rejection from God. They're signs that He's redirecting us into the right season, the right environment, the right relationships, and the right opportunities. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually a setup for something greater. In those moments of redirection, faith becomes our anchor. Faith is not just a feeling, it's a choice. It's choosing to believe that even in the midst of confusion, God's plan is still unfolding. Faith is trusting that God's timing is perfect, even when we don't see the full picture. It's trusting that when one door closes, another one is opening, perhaps a door we never expected or even imagined. When we lean into that faith, we discover that failure and setbacks are not the end. They are the beginning of divine breakthroughs. We also have to understand that our divine purpose is bigger than our individual struggles. It's about the legacy we leave, the lives we touch, and the impact we make. Our setbacks are not just about us. They're about the ripple effect of our perseverance. When we refuse to give up, we inspire others to do the same. When we rise from our failures, we become living testimonies that God's grace is enough. Our story of overcoming becomes a catalyst for someone else's breakthrough. We are not just surviving, we are designed to thrive, to be resilient, and to be beacons of hope for others who are still in the fight. In the midst of setbacks, it's vital to hold on to hope. Hope is the fuel that keeps us moving forward when everything around us seems to be falling apart. Hope isn't just wishful thinking. It's a confident expectation that God's promises are true and that He is working behind the scenes on our behalf. Hope reminds us that brighter days are ahead, that our tears are not wasted, and that our pain is producing an eternal weight of glory. Hope is what sustains us when everything looks bleak, and it's what empowers us to keep going even when the road is rough. We must also remember that divine purpose is often revealed in the quiet moments of perseverance. It's in those times when no one is watching, when we're tired and tempted to give up, that our character is truly forged. It's in those private moments of prayer, reflection, and decision that we are shaped into women who stand firm no matter what. Our perseverance isn't just about enduring. It's about trusting that God is working something in us that we can't see right now. It's about knowing that the delay is not denial, but divine preparation. There's a divine rhythm to our process. Times of waiting, times of pushing, times of resting, and times of receiving. When we understand that, we stop rushing the process and start embracing each season for what it is. Sometimes God is working in the unseen, preparing us for what's next. Sometimes the breakthrough is right around the corner, but requires patience and perseverance. When we walk in that understanding, we develop a resilience that cannot be shaken by setbacks or failures, because we know that every step, every stumble, every victory, and every defeat is all part of a divine plan leading us closer to the purpose for which we were created. The journey of purpose is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about staying committed to the calling on our lives, even when the road gets tough. It's about learning to celebrate the small victories and to see setbacks as opportunities to grow stronger. It's about trusting that God's plans are good and that His promises are sure. When we keep our eyes fixed on Him, we discover that nothing in our past, no failure, no setback can derail the divine destiny that He has designed for us. Our purpose is rooted in His promises, and His promises are rooted in His character, faithful, unchanging, and full of grace. As we move forward, we must also understand that divine purpose involves releasing control and embracing divine timing. We often want things to happen on our schedule, in our way, but God's timing is always perfect. That's where patience and trust come into play. Patience is not passive, it's active trust. It means choosing to believe that God is working even when we don't see immediate results. Trust is the foundation that holds our hope steady in the midst of uncertainty. When we surrender our need to control everything, we step into a place of peace and confidence, knowing that God's plan is unfolding exactly as it should. Our setbacks and failures also teach us compassion and empathy. They teach us to be gentle with ourselves and others, recognizing that everyone is fighting a battle we may not see. Our journey of purpose becomes a testimony of grace, reminding us that we are all work in progress. It's in those moments of humility and perseverance that we become women who extend grace, who lift others up, and who walk in humility, knowing that we are all being refined in the divine fire. The divine purpose for each of us is to leave a legacy that reflects His love, grace, and power. It's to be women who refuse to be defined by their setbacks, but instead are defined by their resilience. It's about stepping into the fullness of who we are called to be, knowing that every setback is a setup for a comeback. Our purpose isn't just about personal success. It's about making an impact that echoes through eternity. It's about living a life that points others to the hope and power of Christ, fueling a legacy that will outlive us. There's a divine rhythm to our story, and when we embrace it, we become unstoppable. We learn that setbacks are simply setups for divine comebacks, that failures are lessons that prepare us for greater victories. That perseverance isn't just about endurance, but about trusting that God's plan is good. His timing is perfect, and His promises are sure. When we walk in that truth, no obstacle can stop us, no failure can define us, and no setback can keep us from the divine purpose that God has uniquely designed for each of us to fulfill. We are a generation called to rise, to persevere, and to leave a legacy of faith, resilience, and unwavering hope.